Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Sharmina binti Somardi, and for these presentations, our group is choosing topic number 7, which is observation techniques.
Okay, now let's see what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the observation techniques. First is directness. The main advantage of the observation is directness. We can collect the data at all the time they occur. The observer does not have to ask people about their behavior and reports from the others. He or she can simply watch as individual acts and speak. While the survey respondent may have a hazy or lapsed memory about the events that occurred in the distant past, the observer is studying events as they occur. And second advantage is natural environment. Whereas other data collection techniques introduce artificiality into the research environment, data collected in an observation study describe the observed phenomena as they occurred in their natural settings. Observation is neither as restrictive or as artificial as either the survey or the experiment. The third advantage is longitudinal analysis. Since the observation is possible to conduct it in a natural setting, the observer can conduct his or her study over much longer period than with either the survey or experiment. Okay, last but not least, the advantages is non-verbal behavior. Observations is decidedly superior to survey research, experiment, or document study for collecting data on verbal behavior. Some studies focus on individuals who are unable to give verbal reports or articulate themselves meaningfully. For these subjects, the observational method is indispensable. This include children, crippled, and mentally and physically handicapped people. For the disadvantages of the observation methods is, first, lack of control. Despite the advantage as achieved from the natural environment, the observation study, however, has little control over extraneous variables that may affect the data. The presence of stranger and the error involved in human observations and the recording of data, which may remain out of control of the observer, are likely to bias the observations to get a great extent. And second disadvantage that we can see is difficulties in quantifications. Measurement in observational studies generally takes the form of observation and quantified perception rather than quantitative measure often used in the survey and experimental studies. The third disadvantage in the observations method is smallness in sample size. Because of observational studies are generally conducted in depth with data that are often subjective and difficult to quantify, the sample size is usually kept at a minimum. Also, the in-depth nature of the observation study generally requires that they are conducted over an extended period than the survey method or experiments. This feature tends to limit the size of the samples. And last but not least of the disadvantage is no opportunity to learn past. In an observational study, there is no way to know the past. It is also difficult to gather information on such topics as intentions, opinions, attitudes, or preference. These techniques can generate either quantitative or qualitative data, but tends to be used more for small-scale exploratory studies than for large-scale quantitative studies. This is because it usually requires relatively highly skilled observers and analysis, prolonged periods of the observations, and high cost per unit observations.